Welcome to our first Carnivore Conversation Zoom meeting. Yay. This is exciting. It's our very first one. Sami and I have been working pretty hard getting this set up and getting the whole program set up. So this is for people to come in. We're going to keep the groups pretty small as we start to grow this platform where people can come in and we can just have a conversation. We're going to talk about where we're at and what's going on and any questions or concerns. So let's start with this. What's been the topic for us this week, or anything on your mind, Sami, for yourself personally?
Yeah, so fat has been on my mind this week. It's funny, you and I were chatting a little bit earlier about our fat intake, and I was telling you how I had been increasing my fat, and you were like, "All right, be careful, don't overdo it." And I was like, "Nah, I feel great." Man, an hour ago, it hit me. And I was like, "Oh my God, I overdid it a little bit." But I definitely I know I didn't have enough fat in my diet because my energy was low. And then when I started introducing high amounts of fat over the past probably 2 days, I had a lot more energy. But I think just today specifically, I went a little too far. I flew too close to the sun? Oh, and I suffered, but that's where I am in my journey right now, figuring out the fat.
Yeah, we're both figuring out that. So as we're like filling out all the resources on here, because there's on carnivoretogether.com, we have tons of resources on here that you can access. We just opened up a whole section with documentaries you can watch. We have research literature you can read. We have articles. We have books. We have videos, everything. We're just loading this up. And I was in this work in the last 3 or 4 days, I really started to look into see if there was some differences to like men and women on this.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to watch some of the videos with men that are like the male physicians, like Anthony Chafee and Sean Baker and Ken Berry, because they're very informative and I love them. And their videos are all over our platform. But they're just sitting there eating ribeyes and drinking water and eating salt. That's great. However, if you are a woman and you are having some hormonal issues, that our hormones can be controlled by our diet, we know that already. So we really needed to look a little bit further to that some physicians that specialize in women's health. So there's two whole sections on this in Carnivore Together. So hop on and check it out. So I found a lot of information from Dr. Elizabeth Bright. And I know Sami's been kind of watching Dr. Boz, but I've been watching Elizabeth Bright because she's in her 60s. So she's full menopause and she understands women's health really well from really young ages all the way up through the changes that we have. And her thought was eat more fat, period. It's a fat for women. Fat is more important. So it should be, I think she said in one of them, she said 80% fat, 20% protein. And if we're doing the just meat, even if, sometimes we don't get the fattiest cuts of meat. Yeah, so maybe we just need more fat. Now, I'm not a physician and I'm not going to go on about the details. So you can look her up on YouTube and Dr. Elizabeth Bright. So I was also looking at some other videos and there was the influencer, I don't know if you know who it is. It's I think Kelly Hogan, who does My Zero Carb Life. She was also talking about going on a just fat. That's all she was eating. And she was eating a lot of it and she was craving it. So is that what's going on with you, Sami? Does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah, I was definitely craving it. And we made these little fat bombs. We spoke about that a little bit in our Share Your Story clip. You can go find it on Carnivore Together if you navigate to that section to get the recipe and stuff like that. But I really was craving it. And I was craving it to the point where, man, I probably had 4 or 5 fat bombs today. I call them fat bombs. We make in these little silicone molds. And for yesterday, it was really good. Today it was really good. And then I had an extra, I know where my error was. I had an extra fat bomb that I wasn't super craving because I was kind of showing my partner how great they were and he was nervous to take a bite. And I was like, no, look, it's good. And I had the extra fat bomb. And I think that's what did me in because that's the only one I had that I wasn't craving. So, yeah.
What did it do to you? Can you share with us?
Oh man, it ran right through me. I'll spare you the gory details, but I read a couple chapters of my book as I was dealing with that, and I made it to the other side.
Well, good. I'm glad you were home and
Oh
not
my
driving
gosh.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, too? It's hard to tell because prior to adopting the carnivore lifestyle, I really had, what other people traditionally consider a healthy, low-fat diet. I had a lot of vegetables, a lot of fiber, a lot of all the things that we grow up hearing are healthy, really lean cuts of meat. So I don't really have a great fat barometer. That's something, I'm experimenting with, and I'm trying to get a better understanding of how much fat is appropriate because I'm just used to having almost no fat in my life for the past, 30 years. So this is a huge shift for me, just, even in terms of mindset. So understanding like I really need a lot of fat, it gives me energy, it fuels me. That's different.
Yeah. I think we talked about this earlier too, was that what we think is high fat in a not high fat diet, like healthy vegetables and that idea and carbohydrates, that we think that putting butter on bread is a high fat diet, and,
Exactly.
and we're cutting. And what they don't really say in some of the information that's online is that high fat carnivore is a whole different world. I mean, you're like, wow, this is it's we're so programmed. If, especially if you're coming off vegan or vegetarian, and they may eat a higher fat if they're eating a lot of cheese and dairy, but we're talking about the animal fat, not the fat from the dairy products. And the other thing too is even if I get my meat from the butcher, that I have to tell them to stop trimming off so much fat off my meat,
Mhm.
leave it on, and then give me the whatever you do take off, give it to me because I can do something with that.
Like
But
what? Like what do you do with it?
oh, cracklins. You take it and you cut it up, like you get just the fat that they trim off the meat. And I just cut it up in pieces, probably, I don't know, maybe 2 inches square, maybe not that big. And I throw them because this is my lazy way of doing it in a crock pot.
Ah,
And then I let it render the tallow off of it, the fat, and then you can save that for cooking if you want. But these things start to get crunchy, and then I let them go for a while, and then you can either put them in the oven and crisp them up after you pull them out of the fat and get them a little bit crispier. Again, this is the lazy way of doing it. I let it sit overnight in the crock pot, and then in the morning, I'll just pull out some and throw it on a dish and put it in the microwave. I put a cover on it because fat splatters, and then that'll crisp it up. Maybe a
honestly,
little bit of salt.
any suggestion that I have from you or from any of the resources we have in Carnivore Together, I love recipes that are in a closed container so my kitchen isn't greasy.
You
So like
see,
the crock pot recipe, I'm gonna be all over. Anything in the Dutch oven that I can throw in, I'm all over that. Anything I can do on the grill outside is wonderful.
if you look in the zero carb recipe section, there's a guy there that is showing you how to make those. Now, the ones that you buy in the store is, it's hard to get. We're in the Northeast. It is really hard to get good cracklins up here. They call it pork rinds. But you can do it with pork belly too, which is, just like big chunks of bacon or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can do the same thing so it has that pork flavor to it, and then throw a little salt on it. But since I'm predominantly a beef eater, I just get the fat from the butcher and
Yeah.
chop it up, throw it in there, and then I'll get like two big bowls full of them, and then I just throw them in the fridge. And then when I want something, I throw it on a dish with a loose lid on it. I don't, and then throw it in the microwave and it crisps it up a little bit.
Mm,
So
yeah.
of course these have a little bit of salt on them because that gives it that flavor. But the other recipe that Sammy's talking about, the fat bombs, is where you take your bacon and just get it fairly crispy so you can crumble it. It doesn't, whatever your taste is, whatever you like crispy or not quite as crispy, but it's up to your individual taste of how you like your bacon. And we have these silicone molds, and she just got some, but mine are like these chocolate candy molds, real small ones. And then I take that bacon and I crumble it up into those molds. And then with the leftover fat, I put about 3/4 of a stick, maybe a whole stick of butter in that because I like the butter flavor. And then I don't add any salt because there's salt from the bacon. And then I kind of let that simmer a little bit and scrape all the goodies off the bottom from the bacon. And then I pour that into a glass measuring cup and stir it and then just kind of evenly distribute it around, all the molds. Make sure that you kind of go around it twice because all the goodies are in the bottom.
Yeah,
And then
I have some. Go ahead, keep talking.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I throw it in the refrigerator and it's about a half an hour. They're set up. If you want it quicker, you can put it in the freezer. And they are a little bit addicting, so you have to be careful with it. You can eat too many of them. Oh, let me see what you got. I haven't seen them yet.
All right. So it's kind of a messy tray. So judgment free here. My
Oh, I
friends are
love it.
little. I got little paw prints.
I like cat paw prints, dog paw prints, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pop one out just so you then like kind of hold it up a little bit. Oh my gosh, these are so good. I'm obsessed with them.
If you're on a budget, those little silicone molds are so inexpensive.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll post them in the resources if you want. They're super cheap. I get them right from Amazon.
Okay, I see
So
brown bits. Great. Yeah.
exactly. Can you see like the
Oh, very
little,
well. Yeah.
see all that goodness in there? And then I'm gonna flip it over. You can see kind of like the bacon bits. I like them super crispy. We were talking about this the other day. It's almost like crunchy peanut butter, but better.
Yeah. Yeah. If
I
you
love that
aren't,
texture.
if you're a texture person and you like creamy, we put the bacon in not only because it adds salt and flavor, but because it gives it that crunchy texture. So I was asking Sammy, I like, are you crunchy or creamy? She says crunchy. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But I know a lot of my friends are creamy. So you can do it without the bacon. You might want to don't put a lot of salt on it because it's already very salty.
I didn't even salt mine.
Yeah, I don't salt mine either. But I
Oh,
don't know if I didn't put the bacon in, if I would want to put but and then the other thing is the butter you're using is salted. If you have unsalted, you may
yeah.
want to taste it and adjust accordingly. But we're gonna make a video of that and put it up in the zero carb. So we got two sections that's under food and food sourcing is we have low carb recipes, which is like really low carb recipes, and zero carb recipes. There's one in there on how to dry age a steak and for how to get your meat, the steaks tasting really good. And then there's a whole nother section in there where we have products that we use that like if you use some kind of a screen to keep this splatter off or whatever that's related to carnivore. And all of these areas are open for people to contribute to or find what they're looking for, ask questions. So that's the big thing right now is really interesting on what people's ideas are when they get started into this because I'm going into 14 weeks and this is a new thing for me is that I think I was eating too much protein. Now, I'm not on a low fat protein where you can get protein sickness. You can get really toxic from that. But no, I'm definitely getting enough fat. But I think my protein fat ratio was off. And so when I am really focusing on let's have a bunch of butter. Like I called it soup today where I had some fat from the beef and then I added a bunch of butter in it and then it was like a big bowl of butter and beef fat, and then with the leftover brisket I had, I was like, well, this is like soup. It was so good. And I'm telling you, before we went carnivore, if we were eating that, we were just thinking we were going to weigh 400 pounds if we didn't knock that off.
Yes, this is such a mindset shift.
It's really hard to do because you're like, no, 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 no. This is so fattening and so fattening.
The fact that we're sitting here talking about how to make fat bombs, what I call little fat bombs, right? If someone told me a year ago I would be sitting here having this conversation, I would have called them a liar.
Be careful with those guys out there if you're listening to this. They are addicting.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful. But the other conversation we had too about fat was, listening to Anthony Chaffee's videos, he's saying that, and I agree with this, is that if you're craving fat, you're like nutrient deficient somehow. If I think that most of us who eat the standard American diet have too many calories and not enough nutrients
Oh, yeah.
coming into their body. So we're hungry all the time. And we're always trying to chase those nutrients that we're not getting. So we just keep putting the same unhealthy foods into ourselves and we're not feeling better. So if you're not feeling well, maybe look at that fat protein ratio. Up they're all saying just make sure that you're getting enough fat, and for women to get way more fat.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was telling you earlier how I was craving these fat bombs and I had a bunch of them today and they're in front of me. I don't have any desire to have one right now. I am not at all craving them. And that tells me I had enough, right? And in my case, maybe a little too much. That extra bomb, I think, did me in. But it's amazing because 3 hours ago, I was driving home from work like a crazy person, like fiending for this little fat bomb. And the first thing I did when I got home is I popped one out of the fridge and I ate it. And it was just like, it melted in my mouth. It was great. And now I'm sitting here looking at them and I'm
Yeah,
tempted.
right. Yeah, because if you think about animals in nature, they're not really overweight for their species. They know when to eat and when to stop. They don't count carbs or calories. They don't have to keep track of everything all the time. They don't keep track of their steps and their calories and all that stuff. And they're very healthy. Why are we so sick? And then we're tracking everything. It just doesn't make sense. And why is it that we can't just shut things off? Because they're saying that carbohydrates keep you hungry, and not for everybody, but for those of us who just don't have an off button. That's the other thing too, is like if you have an extra cookie, it's no big deal. I mean, it is to your waistline and your health, but you just figured that maybe if I just have this one extra fat bomb to share with, and then you're like, no, when you're done, right?
Not the
But
same.
yeah, I think our brains are getting hijacked by sugar and carbohydrates because
Oh, for
it,
sure.
yeah, we don't know when to turn it off. Some of us, most of us,
Well,
especially.
part of it too, carbohydrates affect the hormones that let you know you're satiated. And, the carnivore diet doesn't have that same blocking effect?
Yeah, the ghrelin and the leptin. The one says to that you've had enough, and that's getting blocked by the insulin,
Hmm.
being insulin resistant. And I'm sure there's other things going on with those hormones. Again, we are not those kind of doctors. I'm the one. We work in the mental health field, so that's something we'll talk about more in the future. But all of this information is available on our website. But yeah, so that's something. If you have been on carnivore for a while and things aren't quite working, don't quit. Just kind of, there's a whole section for men, they can watch those videos for how their bodies function, and there's a whole section for women that's going to talk about their hormones. And you can actually connect with these people. Some of them you can make an appointment with. So there's a physician and a mental health referral list. We also have a section in there for dietitians that are carnivore dietitians, but I haven't got that part filled up yet. So we want to get, and if you're a physician or a mental health professional or a dietitian, please reach out to us because we would love to get you listed on there. Because what are we going to do? Where are we going to go to get good nutritional advice from a registered dietitian, right? That means somebody that's licensed and registered, but they're going on the pyramid, even the new pyramid, where they're telling you it's okay to eat some of this stuff. And we're like, no, that's not working. If you got an autoimmune disorder, that's what I deal with. I have polymyalgia rheumatica. Just took me a couple weeks to be able to say that term. Let it roll like that. But it's also referred to as PMR. And not once with all the specialists and rheumatologists I went to did anybody mention diet. And it was so painful that, but within a couple of days, I was able to get off any kind of medication. I mean, it didn't go away, but it took about a couple months for it to be in full remission. So I don't have any signs. Now that don't think that we're cured. You know, if I go back and eat a pizza or something, it's going to flare up. I mean, it won't cripple me like it was before, but I know I hear a lot about how disgusted we are with not having that option presented to us by the typical medical field. So we're looking for people to share their information so we can get it up on our references to refer to the doctors, mental health specialists that are trained specifically in metabolic therapy.
That's another thing too about this community is that we have built it and are building it because we genuinely want to support each other. Like businesses, mental health providers, physicians, anyone really that focuses on metabolic health, we want to support and we want our community to have places to go where they feel seen and heard and not judged and understood and are given really great advice, you know?
Yeah, and how else, if we don't support each other, how else are we going to grow the carnivore world? You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
if we don't support people's, because we have another section in there that's called a member showcase. So there are no ads. This is a private, you pay a very, very low subscription fee. You can do it monthly or annually. And we keep the price down so people can afford it. But we also don't allow advertising or bots were, you know, coming in there and asking stupid questions, annoying things that we're getting on social media. We don't, I was on a carnivore site on Facebook the other day, and the woman was saying, you know, oh yeah, you know, it's carnivore. And she's saying, well, you need blueberries for fiber. And I'm like, and there's all this like non-carnivore stuff. And I'm like, okay, this, I think it's fine if you want to eat blueberries, but that's not the conversation I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that are like really, really low carb or zero carb. And that's the community I'm looking for. And it's, you just can't access it when there's ads and commercials and people on there that aren't really dedicated to it. So that's what we're bringing to everyone.
Yeah. And I think too, there's a little bit of misconception in terms of carnivore and what it means. I don't even know a misconception, but I don't know that everyone knows the layers that come with that. I was watching Dr. Barry's video about like the different layers of carnivore. He himself identifies as a carnivore, but he eats mustard. And he importantly said, I have tried this myself and I know it does not cause an inflammatory reaction to me. It doesn't have sugar in it. The brand that I use, it's not like ketchup, which he warned against because that's so high in sugar. And he was like, you know, if you want to use sauces or seasonings, obviously make sure that they're carb free, as is, you know, kind of what we stand for. And he was like, every person is on this journey themselves. Every person is an N of one. What inflames me might not inflame you, and vice versa. So, as you're figuring out how to make this lifestyle sustainable for you, if you need like a flavored salt, he recommended some, if you needed a little variety. And I just thought that was really interesting. I have been pretty strict carnivore. I really haven't I eat cheese too, I guess, so maybe not that strict. Aside from cheese, I'm pretty much beef, butter, salt, and eggs. But my partner is struggling a little bit more. He wants a little bit more of that variety and those condiments. And I had him watch that video that Dr. Barry shared, and he started eating mustard a little bit, and that was really helpful to him. And like really those small little things help him remain consistent in the carnivore lifestyle. Like that's worth it. You don't have to completely fall off the wagon, in my opinion.
I agree. And that's the one thing about this population is we're more open-minded,
Yeah.
than some other diet gurus who are being very political and attacking you for your beliefs. We're like, do you? We don't have to agree with you, and everyone's on their own journey. So for me, one thing I noticed about getting into a higher fat lifestyle, and we're talking about animal fats, not seed oils,
Mm.
not vegetable fats, because those are very, very inflammatory. There's going to be videos up about the harm of seed oils. So we stay, I mean, it's almost like impossible for people to go out to dinner because, I mean, once in a while, it's not going to be the end of the world, but I don't go out to dinner every week or out to eat because of everything's cooked in some kind of a seed oil. And that's very inflammatory for people who have major inflammatory issues or mental health issues. You want to stay away from that for sure. But the higher my fat intake has become, I have zero cravings for anything like seasonings. I
Mm.
don't I don't have that. So if you're struggling with cravings and you need to go a little bit more extreme because you are very sick and you're trying to reverse something, that if you're hanging on to something, it's going to keep that craving. One of the things I was hanging on to was a little bit of stevia in my chocolate LMNT, which is an electrolyte, and you pour hot water over it. So it was like, oh, that was like my little tasty hot cocoa treat. And it's got like 2 grams of carbs, and then it's got cocoa in there, which is a plant, and then it had stevia. And just that little bit every day kept me craving it. I mean, I was craving that little bit of sweet taste, and I'm not eating sugar, but and I'm like, you know what? What would happen if I just got rid of that completely? So no stevia and then raised my fat. I have no cravings for sweet at all. And I even after I did the higher fat for a while, I did have one of those hot cocos with a little bit of the stevia, and I didn't crave it. It was a treat, and then I'm not craving it again. But I'm back and forth about that because the understanding of stevia is that it is a plant, and they've used it in ancient times for birth control. So I would be really careful with that if you're trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Even whether you're on a low carb lifestyle, zero carb, whatever, but I would really look into these artificial sweeteners because I think there's a lot more harm. But I do know that they are keeping that craving alive, just that little bit that you won't let go of. That's the one thing they say about dairy too. If again, dairy is fine if you can tolerate it, and you're not putting weight on if you're trying to lose weight, because Sammy is not. So, I mean, we're never going to poo-poo anybody about eating dairy, but dairy can also has opiates in it. That's going to keep you addicted if you're trying to go a little bit more extreme. But that's why we have 2 sections in here in the recipe section. We have the low carb section. So but I mustard, as far as I know, the one he was talking about had 0 carbs in it, but it was just a plant. And so the purists aren't going to want you eating mustards or mustard seed because it's but we have, there's a really good recipe in there where he's making a steak. He is cooking it in avocado oil, but you could use tallow because they cook it in avocado oil because it has a higher smoke um point, so it doesn't smoke your house. And if we cook with bacon grease and butter and tallow, it's like it's like you're setting a smoke detector up.
Yeah.
So that's why they do that. But you can use tallow in those recipes, or you can do it the way he does, and then he throws a little some seasonings on it with some garlic and spoons all that on there and throws a little bit of butter. But it's very easy to take some of those low carb recipes and maybe make them a little more zero carb if that's what your body requires.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been really interesting learning about it and kind of playing around with my own diet even. Because at first I was pretty staunchly like, okay, I'm gonna do the beef butter eggs and I'm gonna leave it at that. And then it was okay, but I introduced the cheese because I don't know, I just wanted that variety and I'm not trying to lose weight and it didn't affect my digestion at all. And it just works for me. I think another thing that I'm struggling with is I really have to meal prep to make this work because I work all the time during the day, right? So oftentimes I'll just run out quick and grab myself a breakfast sandwich or like go to the store and grab some crap for, I can't do that anymore. I need to have a plan. And, I think having a cheese stick if I'm hungry, that's like something great that I don't need to prepare. So I keep a bunch of cheese sticks in my office, which is great. I probably have like 2 cheese sticks a day. But aside from that, like my evenings, I'm just baking things in my Dutch oven that I can eat from for like a couple days and until I make it to the weekend when I can really get down to some serious business with cooking. But, part of it too is balancing the demands of everyday life while respecting my dietary choices. Takes some planning.
That makes me laugh. We were calling it the Tupperware diet for a while because you know I go skiing a lot and during the week and this time of year, and I get up in the morning and I cook breakfast and lunch at the same time because I'm out there all day, and I know a lot of people don't eat breakfast, but I freeze to death if I don't eat breakfast on a cold ski day, even on a moderate cold ski day. So, but I just get up and I just get that pan going, and I've got whatever I need going in there, bacon, eggs, and whatever meat. And I put one on the plate. As I'm eating my breakfast, I'm cooking the next batch up. I throw that into the container and then take that with me everywhere. I'm so used, I know that's just hard for people to transition, but I've always cooked my meals, always. My mother did it, and that was something she instilled in me. So I've always taken the time. And what's really nice about this, you don't have to think about it. You don't really need a lot of ingredients.
Right.
Don't need to really go shopping for stuff. I haven't been to the grocery store, but in the last month, I went once to stock up on tons and tons of butter. And oh, I got to tell you what happened. So I go to the local Walmart, and I put this up in the chat, and they have all these different like healthier, higher fat butters. Our favorite is Kerrygold. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. And there's some grass-fed butters. And I was like, oh, look, there's different brands that have that real high butter fat content, like the European. So if you look at American butter, it's kind of like almost like an off white. And if you look at like the Kerrygold butter, it's kind of yellow. I mean, it's just night and day with the amount of butter fat in there. And this one, I was like, oh, great. This is a high butterfat. It's just a different brand. And it's like $1 a box cheaper. I said, I'll try that. I brought it home and I opened it up and it is pale white. And I'm like, how is this? I'm a little confused. I haven't done a lot of investigation into it, but I know a lot of people would want grass-fed butter and whatever you like, but I like to go to the store and stock up.
Yeah.
So, and I get enough butter. I throw it all in the freezer. Hopefully, it'll last me 6 months. I can't imagine what the checkout lady thinks when I'm sitting there doing with all that butter. And I do the same thing because with bacon,
Mm.
because I buy a half a cow twice a year, and that goes into my freezer, and that works for me. And then guess. And then I probably buy butter and bacon maybe 2 or 3 times a year. That's it. I do not like going to the grocery store.
Man.
Anything else I buy online, like salt, buy all that online.
Yeah. It's actually sitting on my front porch right now. I finally got a chest freezer.
Oh, you did. I did not know
Yes. It
that.
hasn't made its way into the house yet. I'm
Yeah,
waiting
very
for
heavy. They're not
what?
very heavy. They're awkward, but I mean, you can pick them up. You don't need a dolly or anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So it was delivered and I haven't touched it. My partner ended up getting it for the house and I was like, okay, that's great. That's your project. I'm gonna let you figure out how to get it to the basement and I'll order the cow and we'll be good to go.
neighbor farmer came over. I live out in farm country, and I said, "Hey, can you help me?" I went to the store and picked it up because I didn't want to pay the delivery because that was an hour and a half away. I drove up there with my truck and some straps and strapped it down, and he went with me and came home. And then I'm like, he tried to borrow a dolly. I think this thing's going to weigh a ton. Maybe it's like the old stuff we used to have, 30, 40 years ago. And we just carried it right up the stairs, right in the front door and set it down. The two of us. It was light. It's just awkward, but it was very easy to move and plug it in for 24 hours. And then let me know when you're ready. I'll give you we use a place. There's tons of places you can go, but I try to buy from my farmers because they're my neighbors and I, want to contribute to my community, especially my farming community. But none of them had anything. So I just called the butcher and they said, yeah, we'll have some. They may be a week or two. And then they'll say, we'll put you on the list and you don't wait. Because one of my farmers it was a year out before they had anything. It's like, no, I can't do that. So
Yeah, once the sucker is set up, I'm for sure going to be giving you a call to figure out where I can get a cow.
yeah, no, I'd give you the number. They're really good. It's a bit of a drive for you, but there's other places that might be closer. But you can call around, get some prices on it.
I'd love your perspective on this. I was talking to my mom a couple weeks ago about how I'm planning on getting half a cow, sticking it in my freezer, all the good things. And she was like, when you were young, we did that because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to do that. You have all the stuff on hand. And she was like, we did it for a couple of years. And then one year we got a bad cow, like just a cow that didn't taste good. The beef just didn't taste good. Bad cow. And she was like, and so we never did it again because we were nervous because you have all this meat and it's, it's relatively expensive. Have you ever experienced that?
No, I'm not surprised. I've had some bad venison.
Okay.
Yeah, because it depends on who, like a lot of people around here process their own venison. So these places are not all of them are doing USDA, but they can't afford that anymore because you can go back on them. So if you get a bad cow, you're going to come back on them and they're going to hopefully make it right because then you're not going to go there again.
Right.
But the facility I go to is very clean and you can see them working in there. I've gone to other butchers where you can't see what's going on behind the scenes. We see what's going on.